So week 5 of the 2017 NFL season is in the books, and what a week it was. We had vice presidents staging phony walkout protests. We had all types of marquee big-time injuries. We had some close, intriguing games. We had young quarterbacks making their first start of their NFL career on Monday Night Football. You had it all. You had it all. Depending on the team that you root for, I suppose. But it was an interesting week nonetheless. So let's take a look at the week, and I'm going to start off by talking about the winners and the losers. In terms of the winners, Carolina Panthers, with all the crap that Cam Newton said and all the hubbub that came after that to that female reporter, you don't really know how Cam Newton's going to respond, how that Carolina Panthers team is going to respond on the road in Detroit against a game-solid Detroit Lions team. Well, as we found out, history repeated itself once again, as the Detroit Lions do what they typically have done under Matthew Stafford. They beat a lot of bad teams. They don't beat very many good teams. For Carolina, a week after beating New England, going into Detroit and beating the Lions and going to 4-1 changes the entire narrative about the Panthers season. And now you have to really start to take them seriously, where a couple of weeks ago they were 2-1 and I thought they totally sucked. I thought they were destined for a 6-10 season, and frankly, based off of the way Cam looked and the way the offense looked, and now you're losing Greg Olsen to injury, it was easy to see how. But the Carolina Panthers, man, in a couple short weeks, now all of a sudden you got to take them really, really seriously. The Green Bay Packers going into Dallas in a place where they had that incredible divisional round game last year where they ended up winning. Dallas at 2-2 off that loss in Los Angeles. Now they're at home again. They've got a chance to defend their home field. They've got a chance to get some revenge on Green Bay. Green Bay's without Ty Montgomery. And all Green Bay does is go down there and find a way to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And now the Packers sit at 4-1, and they look like they could potentially be the team to beat in the NFC. That was a big-time win on the road for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And the other big winner, I think, is the Cincinnati Bengals. They beat a good Bills team. Now you're talking about a Bengals team at 2-3, which isn't anything to write home about, but their offense has looked a little better the past couple of weeks under their new offensive coordinator. Furthermore, you're talking about a division that is there for the taking. So even at 2-3, with as bad as Pittsburgh looks and as terrible as the Ravens offense looks outside of facing the Raiders this past Sunday, the Bengals at 2-3 are still in the mix. That was a big win for them Sunday against Buffalo. It puts them right back in that AFC North title hunt. It really does. Now for the losers, you got to go to the Oakland Raiders. Yes, I know you didn't have Derek Carr, but there are more things afoot and wrong with this Raiders team than just that. They look like right now they were one of the most overrated teams heading into this season. Bad situation, granted, but 2-3 in a division with the Chiefs and the Broncos. Not a good position to be in, especially if you had any designs on winning the division. The Pittsburgh Steelers, what the hell happened? To have Jacksonville come in and just clean your clocks. The offense was terrible. Big Ben had 5 picks. I mean, if you didn't know any better, you would think the Jaguars were one of the premier franchises in the AFC, not the Steelers. And it's crazy because the Jaguars did that with their quarterback, I believe, Bortles, throwing for less than 100 yards. Imagine if the Jaguars had a viable NFL starting quarterback. Not even a great one, just a viable one. Like somebody like an Alex Smith. All kidding aside. Imagine how scary that Jaguars team would be with an Alex Smith. And for me to say that, means something. It also is a testament to just how much Blake Bortles sucks. With that said, he didn't suck bad enough. Big Ben's the one that looked like Blake Bortles. He pulled the Bortles. He was terrible. And the Steelers now, where they're in a situation in a division that isn't very good. The Browns are still nothing. The Ravens look like they were a mess. Frankly, the Bengals look like they were a mess. Here's a chance for the Steelers to go to 4-1, sit there and really kind of establish their dominance over the division, and they lay a freaking egg like that. Horrible. But most horrible of all has to be the New York Giants. How many people would have predicted they would have started off the season 0-5? I'm sure a lot of people, especially if they had survivor pools, were picking the Giants to win this week because, yeah, they were 0-4, but they were also facing an 0-4 Chargers team. They've got Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe that'll be enough to win. And then, of course, the Giants have Odell Beckham go down with a season-ending injury. Brandon Marshall ended up going down with a season-ending injury. And now you really wonder if the Giants are in full-on tank mode. And frankly, at this point, you don't even want to jinx it because what they're doing right now is good enough to tank. You don't want to come up the works. But this was the chance for the Giants to get their first win of the year. And it didn't happen. At home. And then you lose Odell for the season. Yeah, the biggest losers of the week have to be the New York Giants. That's just bad. Just bad. So now that I've talked about the winners and losers, I'm not going to talk about studs this week. I'm going to get right into 4th and 10. Let's go. I've already done a video on this channel talking about my thoughts on Mike Pence and his protest walking out on the Colts 49ers game Sunday. You can watch that if you want. Not even to get too political here. This is just a common sense thing to me. Doesn't the Vice President of the United States have more important things to do than a stage political protest? Seems to be a better use of taxpayer dollars out there, if you ask me. Yes, Browns fans, I know your team is 0-5. I know Deshaun Kaiser's looked terrible and he got pulled again in favor of Kevin Hogan. But at least your number 1 overall pick, Myles Garrett, made his debut on Sunday and he had 2 sacks. That is something for you to latch onto. Hold on to it. Grab onto it. Because honestly, you're probably going to need it. And now will be the point in time I will remind you, you could have just taken Carson Wentz number 2 overall in the 2016 draft. Don't look now, the Jets have won 3 in a row. That's right, the New York Jets, the team that we all assumed was tanking this year, were going on to suck for Sam or job for Josh, get that number 1 overall pick, have now for all intents and purposes screwed the pooch on that completely, entirely, and totally. Why? To potentially save Todd Bowles' job and finish 7-9. Good job, Jets. Only you guys could screw up a tank job. So on Sunday, Blake Bortles was the superior quarterback in his game. Crazy. Even crazier, it was in a game with a future Hall of Fame quarterback like Big Ben. Big Ben was terrible. Like even Jay Cutler says this dude sucked. He threw 5 picks after the game. He's talking about he doesn't have it anymore. What the hell is going on with the Steelers? And I'm sorry, Steelers fans. Just when you think it can't get any worse, guess what? You get the Chiefs on the road next week. Good luck with that one. I think deep down a lot of Panthers fans are happy with Cam and what he said because whatever was said clearly motivated him and he had another great game this past Sunday. And at this point in time, Panthers fans are probably wondering, can he say some homophobic shit too? Because at this pace, the Panthers might not lose another game this year if he does. With all the talk about the vice president walking out on the Colts 49ers game on Sunday, another story that probably got swept under the rug way too much was Frank Gore surpassing Eric Dickerson, I believe, to become 7th on the NFL's all-time rushing list. 7th, Frank Gore. It's still crazy to this day to not see him in a 49ers uniform, but that is the reality of the NFL. But you know what's funny with Frank Gore? As he goes into the tail end of his career on a bad team, he's really in a situation where even now Marlon Mack should be more of the primary ball carrier and running back for them. He should be transitioning more into a spot duty type of role. Frank Gore is just underappreciated. And I know for years, I personally have underappreciated Frank Gore. And in recent years, as the talk about Hall of Fame and this and that has really picked up for Frank Gore, I can't lie, initially I thought people were crazy. I thought this is a very good player, but I never thought he was elite. I just didn't see a Hall of Famer. But now, as we get to kind of that swan song in Frank Gore's career, I look at the entirety of the body of work, and you know what? He's the 7th all-time leading rusher. By the end of this season, he could be top 5 on that list. He was a very good player for a number of years. He was a part of some very good 49ers teams at the tail end of his run there under Jim Harbaugh. Nothing but respect for Frank Gore, a guy who's done it the right way, even battled some injury problems early in his career, and has been able to do it year in and year out. He's not the same player that he once was, but he could still be somewhat productive. Yeah, I'm with it now. Frank Gore is totally a Hall of Famer in my eyes. I know injuries happen in the NFL and we have big stars go out every year, but it really seems like there is a large number of big stars going out for long stretches of time. Talk about David Johnson in Arizona. Then you think about a guy like Dalvin Cook, a young future star in Minnesota. He blows out his ACL. He's out for the year. David Johnson's out a few months with a wrist injury. And then you go to the Giants on Sunday. And as if their season could not get any worse, one of the biggest stars in the game, Odell Beckham Jr., for all the great that he does and all the baggage that comes along with him, the bottom line is he's a marquee star in the biggest market in the country. And he fractures his leg, and now he's out for the season. Very simply, even if the Giants stink, and even if you think like I do Eli stinks, the fact is you would still watch a Giants game because of Odell Beckham Jr. There is nothing good or positive that comes out of one of the biggest stars of the league and the biggest media market in the country being out for the year with a broken leg. And again, speaking of big stars and injuries, Odell Beckham Jr. out for the year. Giants fans are probably crying, and not just because of the season they're having, and I get it. For the Houston Texans, you lose Whitney Merciless for the year to a torn pec, one of the most underrated edge rushers in the National Football League. A hell of a football player, your second best defensive player in my estimation. And then you lose J.J. Watt to this freakish tibial plateau fracture, and he's out, it looks like, for the year. A guy that missed the majority of last season with an injury. Now you're coming back with all the stuff that he was doing to help Hurricane Harvey relief and how much he's meant to that Texans organization over the years. It was heartbreaking to see that injury and to see just this cloud go over the stadium as you see grown men and women sad and women crying about a football player going out due to injury. It just shows how important sports can still be and athletes can still be, and somebody upstanding like a J.J. Watt can still be to his community, to his organization. Thankfully for the Texans, they still have Deshaun Watson, but this sucks. You just lost your two best defensive players in the same night to season-ending injuries. That is really, really tough to overcome and potentially really, really devastating for an organization like the Texans and a city like Houston. I can't lie. When I first went on Twitter and I saw the name Chris Forster trending, I was thinking, who the hell is that? I know that name. The point I'm getting at here is you don't go on Twitter and expect offensive line coaches or coordinators in the NFL to trend on Twitter. And lo and behold, he was. And once you saw why he was, oh my goodness, he's yakking it up for some freaking stripper bitch or whatever the hell she was. He was fucking snorting lines of coke through a $20 bill. Johnny Manziel's got to be proud of that. And recording it and sending the video to somebody. What the hell are you doing? You're making like $2.5 million a year. You're married and all this crap. And you're yakking up. And what's crazy about it is all the people that are talking about how dumb this is and how stupid this is and how idiotic this is. I'm surprised we didn't get more talk about. Just imagine if him and Laramie Tunsil were conducting the offensive line meetings in Miami. No wonder they were having trouble blocking people. Laramie's like, I'll bring the gas mask. And Forster's like, I'll bring the stars in the sky. But the craziest thing of all is for people to sit there and think that he'll never get a job as a coach anywhere, specifically in the NFL. I promise you this much. He was getting paid that much as an offensive line coach. What he'll do, he was on camera doing drugs. He'll be able to use the rehab excuse. He'll probably find God, and then we'll give him a second chance, and he'll have a job in the league before Colin Kaepernick. You can book it. Last but most certainly not least to me, the Mitchell Trubisky era has officially begun in Chicago. And yes, he wasn't necessarily the quarterback I wanted, but he is the quarterback that they have. And at this point in time, I have no choice but to get 100% behind him and hope for the best. I saw some good, I saw some bad, but at least I saw something. And after all of these years of the Rex Grossman Turd Ferguson experience, the Shane Matthews, Jim Miller, Cade McNown era, the freaking Cordell Stewarts and the Chris Chandlers and the Jonathan Quinns and the Craig Krenzels and the Chad Hutchinsons, 8 years of the Cutler experience, 4 games of Mike Glennon. It feels good to say Finally, there was something to legitimately look forward to with the Chicago Bears organization. And legitimately, for the first time in my life, they could potentially, possibly, finally have their quarterback of the future.